record a video of your time doing a segregation of any experience that you guys want to share with the other Vesta. So I'm going to start off with this first question I'm going to give you is, can you tell me about a time of your experience doing segregation? Anybody can speak.
When what?
Doing segregation.
Well, I was asked to get her from the front and go to the back
On the bus.
on the bus.
And how did and you actually got up and went to the
Yes, I
back?
had to get her.
I go to
That was
jail.
the law.
I go to
I'll
jail.
go to jail.
How old were you at the time when they asked you?
Oh. I was a teenager.
Okay. So we're talking pretty much like the Rosa Parks story, before the Rosa Parks story. So during, Rosa Parks was one who wouldn't move. So how old were you when that happened?
Oh, that was recent. Let me see. That was,
I think we were probably about four in our 40s, I think, when that happened.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So all the way up to your 40s, you had to sit at the back of the bus.
yes.
I think probably you could get a good understanding about it. I can date mine. Back in 1960,
Okay.
and 1960 was the first year I came to Houston. And I was driving my car to Houston, and I broke down in Centerville, Texas. And I end up walking back to Centerville, and I got a ride back also. The man picked me up after I was halfway there. And I got my car and had it put in a shop there. And then so I had to go and buy a ticket to go to TSU. This was in 1960. And when I got down there to go in there, I went in the Greyhound bus station. You notice I'm calling a name. The Greyhound bus station to buy my ticket to go on to Houston. And the lady told me, looked at me kind of funny, she said, if you want to buy a ticket, you got to go around to the back. I said, lady, I don't want to eat. I just want to buy a ticket to get out of this town. She said, even if you want to buy a ticket, you got to go around to the back. I went on around to the back because I had no option. There was no option but to go around to the back. And I went back there and I paid the same amount of money in the back that I would have paid in the front. Now I noticed also they had a little place back there for, quote, the colored folks to eat. And then they had, so I said, can I either get a hamburger? And they said, yeah, but you have to eat it back here. And this was in 1960. So segregation at that time, it was marvelous. And like she says, I've been asked to get up and give a white woman my seat. This wasn't unusual for us to do. And we knew that when we rode down on Greyhound bus station, we knew that you sat in the back, even though that front seat, that guy sitting in the front seat paid the same amount of money that I paid to sit in the back. And to answer your question, did you get up and go? Yes.
I'll go to jail.
I'll go to jail. Because the bus driver would have stopped on the near thing and called the police, and they'd have put her in jail.
I will also agree on what has been said concerning riding the bus or any public place. The signs was there, white only, color. So wherever that sign was pointing for the color, that's where you went. There was no option of maybe or nothing. You obeyed the sign or either jail. It's one of the two. And I came to Houston in '52, and it was going on. I didn't realize it was still going on 60. But it was hard for us, knowing that we all was just peoples and had to be treated like we were. But it was that or live or die. The choice was yours. So we obeyed those rules. white only, we passed it, and we went on to the Sunset Color, and I was on the bus, because I've had to get up on the bus and move back. They said, move back, and that meant that you had to move back. But thank God we passed that.
My experience, they used to have Houston Transit had a bus on the ride called the Darwin bus that went down Darwin Street. When I was going over to TSU, they had a sign, for colored. But now sometimes they get a lot of whites on the Darwin bus, and every time they get whites on there, sometimes we had to move back past the colored sign, and some of the whites were sitting back there. So the sign didn't mean anything. If whites got on there, and more whites than blacks, then they didn't go by the sign except for you. But the whites would go on past that sign, going on back towards the back there.
And
But you couldn't go past the sign going towards the front.
That's right.
You would have to stand.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you remember up in one of the little country towns where they drug that man.
I think in New Boston.
Jasper?
Jasper.
Texas.
Jasper, Texas.
New Boston.
But that wasn't the first situation that had happened to blacks like that. If you could, most of us can remember Emmett Till. Emmett Till just looked at a white woman down in Mississippi. And they found Emmett Till beaten and with I think an old air conditioner or something tied around his neck and around his body and dumped in the river.
At first they burned him so till he looked like charcoal.
That's
They
right.
caught the charcoal.
And these type of things would happen to you. That's why she said, I get up and go and move on back. Because they could get you.
Before they drug that man, that the court you're talking about, there was an incident in a town in East Texas called New Boston. This black guy was on the bus, and he refused to move, and they lynched him. I don't know whether it was a Greyhound bus or what it was, but anyway, this was the incident before they drug that Carter guy. And I think he's from Chicago or someplace, but he refused to move, and he was lynched right there. Oh, another incident to me, they integrated the armed forces before they did civilian. Okay, I came back with a bunch of sailors and a few soldiers chartered a bus from Los Angeles to Houston. When we got to Dallas, I'd been talking to a white soldier. We've been talking along the way. So when we got to Dallas, we stopped at a restaurant, and everybody on the bus got out in the restaurant. This white guy and I walked in, and we were going to sit down with everybody else that we served with. And the manager came out and says, okay, I can serve you up here, but I can't serve him, talking about me. So the white guy said, well, where can you serve us? So he took us back in a little hallway between the restaurant and the office. That's where we ate. Now, we were already integrated in the armed force, and all of us were armed force or servicemen, but they wouldn't allow us to eat in the same place in Dallas. And here's something even worse. In San Diego, which had been, I guess, integrated at all time, on a Navy base. Civilians were working on the Navy base, and servicemen would go in the restaurant there, so they have servicemen and civilian. This civilian guy, contractor, was sitting at a table. He was the only one at the table, so I came in. I sit down there. He jumped up and said, I have to work with y'all, but I don't have to eat with you. I said, okay, get up and go. See, because he was on a Navy base that was integrated, so he's gonna, he's gonna try to enforce segregation on a Navy base. That's which is stupid. It's kind of weird.
Even though segregation was taking place in different parts of the country, it was still quite prevalent here in Houston. Because I remember a couple of times going to Woolworths downtown, and we had to eat downstairs. And we couldn't go to the bathrooms. I was just a little girl then, but we couldn't go to the bathrooms that everybody else go to. And we'd have to look for Kate Mack. And she would have to lead us to the back and sneak us to the bathroom so we could go to the bathrooms. And then we could only go to one movie theater, Lincoln Theater downtown. There was Big Mo, Collins, that would let us in the movie theater in order to sneak us in so that we could watch the movie theater. I remember one incident when, most of you know Sylvia Wilkerson Jones. And Sylvia was really light-skinned when she was a baby. And my mom used to keep her. And she took us downtown to Woolworths, and my mama got in trouble. And she had to prove who Sylvia was because they asked her what was she doing with that little white baby. So So it was still prevalent when I was 12, you know, when Sylvia and I was little, it was still prevalent here in Houston, very much so.
Speaking of that bathroom, it was not only the bathroom, it was the water fountains too.
Yeah.
And I asked this question. I remember that saying, whites, colored. Where did the Mexicans use the bathroom? Where did the Mexican
With the
people
whites, didn't
Well,
use the, I know the answer, but I mean, where was they bathroom? That's why when I get to going down here, when I get to hearing about the Mexicans saying I may be showing a little prejudice here, don't worry about it. But I wonder, I hate when they start talking about their civil rights. Nobody had no civil rights before blacks started getting their civil rights. Every race after that, the Mexicans, the Japanese, the Chinese, everybody, the Jews, everybody want their civil rights. But everybody, there were two classes of people in the United States. Whites and colored. And just like someone said, and most of us, we went through quite a bit, and I don't want to take over this in conversation, but we went through quite a bit. First, they called us the N-words. They couldn't say the Negro. I have lived through the N-word. I lived through the Negro. I lived through the color. I lived through Afro-American, the darkies, and I lived through Afro-American, and I lived through blacks. I don't know when I fill out the application, they say, "What is your race?" I don't know. But I just wonder, where did the Mexicans drink and use the toilet? They had to use it.
I know the subject is deep and we can go on and on.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna move on.
Yes.
So, what I want to do is for you guys to tell me experience about your first jobs and growing up during that time. Or the job that you applied for.
Are you saying the first job we ever had?
During that time, how was it to work during that time?
Well, my first job was mowing lawns and delivering newspapers for a company out of Pennsylvania. I had to deliver it 3 times a week, and because I mowed the lawn every 2 weeks in there. And my experience was some of my customers wouldn't pay me, so my mother had to give me money to send my portions back to the newspaper. And that made me feel bad that grown people wouldn't pay a kid to keep a kid's money. That didn't feel too good. But my mother said, "Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it." Sometimes I wouldn't collect enough money to get my share out of it. All the money I collected, a little bit I collected, I had to send it to the newspaper company. So eventually, sometimes they wouldn't pay me, but sometimes they never would pay me then. And another experience when I'm mowing lawns, I finally purchased my own lawnmower, and I could go all over town and go along. I got up on what they call College Hill, where Sam Houston, State Teachers College, now a university in Huntsville. I went up there and I passed by this house, and I went to the front, knocked. I know the route, but I didn't like the route, so I went to the front and I knocked on the door. And the lady said, she didn't even ask me what I wanted. She said, "Go out to the back where you belong." And to me, that was really an insult. So I went back out to my lawnmower, and I kept going down the street. Because even though sometimes I had to follow the rules, the segregation rules, I didn't like it at all. So that was my way of showing, no, I'm not going to your back. That's 1 yard. I won't get a chance to mow. I kept going down there. And another job I applied for, and they said, "We don't hire niggers. This is a white man's job." And wait a minute. I'm not begging. I'm coming to work, and you're going to tell me you're not going to hire me because I'm black? And that's those kind of insults. And I was just a child, I'm a teenager. The teenagers, grown men, but it was hard on the grown men because the grown men were treated like they were little boys. So it was really hard on them. I was a teenager. It was hard on grown men.
Is there ever
I was born.
Did she say me?
No.
I was born Clinton Park. And I finished Wheatley High School, and in 1952, we had 2 policemen to come to Wheatley, Booker T. Washington, and Yates at that time. And if you were hanging on the street, they would bring you in school and that kind of thing. And then if you made A, B, well, they would talk to you. And my principal said, he's a good student, I played football, and that kind of thing. So I told him, I want to be a policeman. And he weighed about 300 some odd pounds, stood about 7 feet tall. And I went down there, like he said. And they said you'd have to take a test. So they gave me a test by myself, and they said I passed it, I don't know. But when he told me that you passed the test, he said, but we don't hire niggas. Man, that went through me at that age. And I said, oh my God, I've heard this so much. And this policeman told me I could go and be a guy. I wanted to be one. And so I come on out of the police station where they were, and up the block, y'all have to forgive me, my speech is bad now. They were practicing the fire department with a fire that wasn't real, and I decided to go in there too and see if I could get that job. And I went in there and he told me the same thing. We don't hire niggas. Well, can I say, hell broke loose in the mind. And I went to my uncle and told him he had a place in 4th Ward. He said, buy you a knife. He called me. You seem like you don't like it. I said, I don't. So I bought this knife. And in June, I went downtown on Main Street to catch the bus. You know, they had a place the 19th of June that the black people could go down and enjoy. You remember that? Enjoy the ride and these beautiful things. And I got on that bus. All of these years of hearing nigger, I didn't want to live in this world. And that was the time that I had made up in my mind to get on that bus on Main Street. Instead of sitting in the cross seat where the driver, I sit on the cross seat that way. And everybody was getting on the bus white. And when the white women didn't want to sit, and I'm over there, and I wouldn't move. But I had my hand under my suit, the white shirt, on that Texas jacket. And I said to myself, Lord, I'm coming home today. I'm tired of being called a nigger. And I sit there on that bus. I said, the first somebody touched me, they were gonna get whacked right in here. I was gonna cut them half in two. And I knew that I was gonna get electrocuted. I didn't care. I was tired of living in this world. Bus driver said, boy, you supposed to be up from there and sit like that. I would look up at him like that, with my hand under my black suit, dressed up to die. And I told my father, I'm tired of living. I don't want to live in this world like this. So I married the girl that I played football with. She danced at the football with the football boys. And I married her. And my dad took me to be a mason. And so I went out to Sheffield Steel. That's where I got my first job. My first job was to keep the place clean where the white people go and party at. And we would paint the trees taller than me all the way around. I worked there for about a year, not missing no days and everything like that. So the foreman said, I'm gonna put you over driving the truck. And I drove the truck. I did that for about 9 months, and he said, we bought a place out called National Supply Company. You want to go over there and get a good job, get out from the sun? I said, I'll try. And I went over there, and so they had a thing that they built to pump gas out of the water. They were gas company. So I went there, and he hired me, but I didn't wait but very much, and I had to pick up a wrench, weighed 16 pounds, and I was very light, but I did the work, and I never missed no day. And this woman came to me and said, you came from over there, and they told me you was a good worker. He said, we're going to open up the other place, and we're going to have some more machinists. You want to go and take the test? I said, where I got to go? He said, University of Houston, and we rented a place over there. I said, yeah. But I take that Texas Jack everywhere I go. Because I was tired of living. And that 2 jobs was the best thing I've heard toward, instead of calling me a nigger, they say colored or black. Yeah. And so he says to me, we cannot be too close to the University of Houston school because we rented a place off from there. I wanted to be a machinist. So I had to go there and take the test. So I told him, I said, well, what do all I need to learn? I said, I can count, divide, add, I can do fraction. What do I need to do? And he said, learn how to read the print. But he didn't know that at Wheatley, that was my last thing I took, learning how to read the blueprint. So I didn't say nothing, but what I did, I got at the back seat of all those white people. I was just like I'm sitting here. I was on the back, but I went my back to the wall. I said, the person put their hands on me, I'm going to cut his throat. I didn't want to be, Lord have mercy.
Kill somebody.
I didn't want to be, Lord have mercy. And so God has been.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
He has protected me from all those years until now. I don't think like that now. But that day, we had a test, and so that man that gave the school teacher gave us the test. The next day or so, he came back in the class and said, who is Herbert Richmond? All the white folk looked back, and I'm on the back of the school.
Takes a jack.
And he said, Herbert Richmond, stand up, and that red line you follow. And I stood up. I said, Lord have mercy. I looked at all these white folk. I said, I can't kill them all. And so I said, I got to. But I had to kind of be nice, and I did pull that Texas Jack a little bit out and walk down to it. He said, you're the only one made a high mark on that to find how this works. And he says this. He said, you tell them how to do it. I said to myself, see now, that's what they want a black man to tell white folks, because I thought they were smarter than black. Tell them how to make A and count. So I did. I passed the test. I was a machinist. I don't be through. I was a machinist for that company, going through what you were saying, the Negro, one white fella got all the books that he gave me. He was a church-going man, and he gave me books. He stopped a lot of white folk from doing me bad. And so He said, I'm gonna give you this book here. This is what they done to the black man.
Mm-hmm.
They would burn him, they'd tie him up and throw him in the river of Mississippi. And he said, if that Mississippi River could talk,
Mm-hmm.
it wouldn't be no United States of America. And that changed my thoughts about hurt, but I always kept that knife. And I did 29 years of nasty supply as a machinist.
All right.
I was a machinist cutting a 3/8/4/8 machine. And then they got it a year or so later, that big machine called a Bowen mill.
Hold on, Reverend.
In my time of working, I'm gonna quit, for that company, I ran that Bowen mill, cutting material 47 inches in diameter. And I made plenty of money. And so I never got in trouble. And that changed my thought. And I thought about what my grandmother told me about God.
When he talked about that application,
Yeah.
see,
God
when we got
was with me.
hired,
Yeah.
he was lucky, he was blessed.
God.
Because white folks had code in the personnel. When I make out my application, and a white boy make out his application, if my application seemed to be better, they put a code on that application of mine. It might be CO 145. The next person to handle that application, see that code CO 145. They know this is a black person. And into the trash, it will go. That's how they did it.
God.
But I'm not gonna keep on, you guys are both questions. We running over, I know.
And I like,
Not remembering now how much it was, but we did have to pay in order to vote, and then you also had to be in a different line to do so. You still wasn't voting in the same, line that what the white was, because there was a sign that still said white on it in color. So, I was thinking, I think it was, it's been many years ago. Thank God that has passed now. That we don't have to pay to vote, and yet some of us still won't. And I think it's bad to know that you have your privilege to do so this week. And when we, our peoples, did not vote. But I do remember paying my husband and I. He was a World War II veteran, but he still had to be also. It didn't matter how you were serving in the service. You just had to go according to what the rules and regulation was. But they didn't honor our men then like they do now. So that's about it.
Brother Jackson, hold on real quick, Reverend. Brother Jackson, anything about voting you want to add?
Only thing I'd like to add about it is what my deal was saying is they were called a poll tax, and if you didn't have the receipt to say that you had paid your poll tax, you'd be turned around on that there, and then people started saying that this was illegal. This poll tax was illegal. And they protested against it, and they removed the poll tax. But until then, like my deal said, now we go with our ID.
Right.
The kids go with their ID to vote. But then you went with your ID and your poll taxes. But they repealed the poll tax.
And so now, as younger, they don't know the importance of voting.
No, I hope these children come up and realize the things that they went through. Go see that. I think that there's a movie out now called Selma. Go see that and go to the library. If anyone ever get up in Detroit Detroit, Michigan has a new civil rights. You wouldn't believe the things that's in there and that were done to blacks, for as the voting was concerned. As one postcard, I never forget, as long as I live, a white guy sent his cousin a postcard with a picture of a black man hanging naked and a bonfire underneath it. And in the writing he wrote, I don't know what y'all had for the 4th of July, but this is what we had. You know, things like that. But that voting, it took a lot to get us to vote, because they didn't want us to vote on that. But we were glad when they appealed the poll tax, and anybody could go in and vote with a little ID.
What's the name of the school over in First Ward that has the museum here?
Gregory Lincoln.
Gregory Lincoln also?
Gregory Lincoln have it. Gregory Lincoln has a
Black
museum
history.
and with Black history. And I think I got some books that I
And
might
so
use.
does Booker T. Washington. Booker T.
Moving
Washington.
forward up to right now,
I'm thankful that I don't have to go through all that, what he said. I mailed my letter in. They sent me some letters so I could write my
Yeah.
vote in. So
Write
I
it
don't
in,
have to
mail
go
it
to
in.
the poll, the stand, and all that. At my age, and I'm thankful.
yes, sir. So moving forward, right now we have a black president,
Yeah.
and I don't think none of us would ever believe
Mm-mm,
that could happen.
mm-mm.
So I know you voted, but when he won, what were you doing and how did it make you feel?
Oh, I felt wonderful. I praise the Lord. I thank God for it.
When Obama won, I was working at, down at 4810 Yale. It was right after Katrina and all this stuff that happened and the water, and we were just getting the community back where it should be. And we were riding around yelling and screaming out the car, saying, now we have a black president, now we have a black president. But with the same vigor that we went out there when Obama won, I've always had that vigor, because I had to stand by my mom when the poll tax there at Boris, and they separated the lines, and she couldn't go this way, she couldn't go that way. I had to watch as she would sit down, and my mom is a history buff, and that's why I stress with my grandchildren so much. Mama bought a piece of cotton from LeCounte, Louisiana, and when they buried her mom in the back of the church, because that's what he used to be buried at. And she taught us, she says, this piece of cotton, you see the thorns in it, you see the hardness of it. She said, I walked from sunup to sundown, and I had to have 50 pounds. And then he would take it and he'd put his foot on the scale, and he'd make it seem like I didn't have as much. And then he said I had rocks in it, and he'd only give me 50 cents, a day for that entire day. And she taught us that. When I drove from here to Louisiana, we had to get on the train. And all the white people were at the front of the train, and then being young, I'm wondering, why can't I ride there? And they would stick us in the back. You know, we'd have to take our own lunches wherever we went, because they wouldn't feed us. And my mom had 6 children. And yet and still, she worked at the cafe and served white people their food. But she couldn't feed her own children. See, Independent Heights has a rich history, because there were members, Mr. Bolton, them, they worked down at Walgreens, and then they come back, him and Mr. York. Mr. York left us last weekend. And they would sell food out of their window to my mom now, because they wouldn't let them go down the street to buy food for us during that time. We were kept away from it, because I thought I was rich. I didn't know I was poor until I got to college and got to high school, because in Independent Heights, that's the way we were raised. That's the way we were raised. Miss Ruby, you knew everyone from the front of your street to the back of your street, and you could leave your houses, you could leave everything open. These children today, they don't appreciate, they don't know, and because they don't know, they can't thrive, and they can't participate. You know, and I'm so happy this is going on, because we have a duty. We have a duty to these kids and let them know. You know, I'm the baby at Bella Vista. I was the first child born here, the first one married here. I'm the baby at Bella Vista. And now here I am, 60-something years old. You know, and as the elders begin to leave us, as they begin, you know, Mama Lottie, the Sunday school class, Brother and Sister Hutchinson, Mama Pillow, who died right here at the church, at another church. All these people, somebody need to tell our children what they went through to get us where we are. So I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm excited about Obama. I'm excited about what you guys are doing. It's great.
I like that one way. I says to my mind now, and I teach it to my, I taught my children, forget the past, get your ABCs. And I put 4 children in college. I gave each, well, my daughter, I bought her a brand new car. The boys, I could work on cars, so I bought used cars for each one of them to go to school. And when they were going to college, I gave them $100 a month until they finished. And after they finished, I told them that's it. No more money. You work, you trust in God, and you stay away from, don't pay that black, that colored sign no different. Don't pay that no mind. You have your ABCs ahead of that white man, and you can do better. And that's what they do. I have my daughter, she teaches school, and my son, he's a master electrician for the government, burning the trash that the United States don't want. And my other son, he's retired. He was tried to be a doctor at the VA, but he wouldn't stay. So that's what I got. They all graduated from college. And I thank God. And I teach it in my neighborhood to young children to go to school. Stay off of drugs. Stay off of that, what they call fighting. You fight them books. You fight your ABCs, your multiplication. That's what you do.
In talking to the youth, because this is where they're at, where you
Right.
guys came from. Right now, we have cell phones, and we have tablets, we have internet, we have video games.
Yes.
You know, we have Mike Brown, Trayvon Martin, Eric Gardner, you know, what's going on. So we have disrespect, we have pants hanging out, we have cursing, we have, so what is it that we can tell our this generation right now, from where you're at, your experience, so that they don't lead to worse? Just in your own words, 30 seconds to a minute, plus or minus 30 seconds. What can you tell them?
Well, I can start with my own girls. I had 6 children. I had a little boy. My little boy died. So I had those 5 girls. And I walked out of their father's life, my husband, after 14 years because the Lord knowed what was going on, and He knows how much I could stand and had took. So walking out of His life at that time, I said, well, Lord, I got these 5 girls and you. And we was here in Houston, and I went to live with one of my aunties. And I was working. I was doing domestic work, but I worked. And I told those girls, I said, one thing, I will see that you all will finish school.
Yes.
And then it's going to be left to the Lord and you to go further. So their father died. He was, like I say, he was a veteran. And he died, and those that was under 18 at that time could go to college on his VA. And some of them did, and some didn't. Thank God, Grace was old enough. She was working. She went on. Joyce was smart enough to go, but she working. And Evelyn did go on. She finished Samuel Star, and she stopped. But she was working. And Diary said she well know, you know, she went far as she's at now. And in the medical field, at the Texas Cheering has been. She's one of the high workers there. Thank the Lord. So I told them and I taught them about God, because that was who was the head of my life. We went to church, we went to Sunday school, we went to BTU, so everything that's going on in church, they went, because that was my teaching to them. And they can tell you now, that's all we ever did was went to church. I was made women's out of it. So I thank God for that, and I have said to the young people now that you need God. in your life. If your parents didn't give it to you, they teaching at church, trying to, like I tell the little great grand over there, I said, I'm gonna tell Reverend Thomas to start teaching to y'all on obedience, because she's not grasping it yet. And I can start saying, tell him so he can start teaching to y'all, and that really gets her. But I want them to learn, these little great grands, about God and who you can trust. And just let him lead and guide you, because he will do just that. And that's for all our children that's here and children I have had in my life, because once I took on another little girl, bringing her to Sunday school when they were young, because they said, well, you already got 5 and you have to do, but I took on her. And before she left this world, she told in her church that she thanked God for me, because I had carried her to Sunday school and put God in her life. So that is my saying to our children, if you don't get it from your parents, because I realize all parents, it's not like I was. See, they had to go to church. They had to go to Sunday school. They had to go to BTU. Wasn't no question about it. We went, I went, they went. So that's what we need to be teaching our children. I know we're doing it here at the church. Thank God for Reverend Thomas, that he have them over there on Wednesday night, teaching them about God, because that's who they're going to have. All this other stuff will fade away, and they won't have anything to stand on. The drugs, the cell phones, and all the rest. It will not stand. It will not carry them no further where they are. But thank God for technology and all this stuff. Thank God for all that. The knowledge that he has given man to do. And it's good for the children to learn it, but don't let that be your, I tell Isaac, don't let it be the first thing you pick up in the morning and the last thing you put out at night.
That's right.
Because you need God in your life.
Well, what I would tell the young children is this. It's an old saying that goes back years and years ago, and most blacks that came up around my time, we kind of live by it, and that saying is, it takes a whole tribe to raise a child. And I'm saying to the children, under that, it take a whole tribe to raise a child. There are 3 aspects to it. The first aspect to it is you got to respect someone.
Right.
You got to respect your elders. And their elders don't have to be elders like me, 60 and 70 and 80 years old. It could be someone that is 30 years old. I would say to the children, do you remember, you should respect them, because I can remember the time my daughter could not, and my son could not even clean themselves. They could not feed themselves. I had to clean them, feed them, take them everywhere. You should respect your mother and your father on at the end of your elder.
Right.
And then the second unit, the second thing about that is not only respect, but the second is unity. Right. You ought to be unity. We were unified in our community. We help each other. We did like she said a few moments ago. We did not break into each other's home. One reason we didn't have anything for you to steal. And the other reason, we respect.
Yes.
We were unified, and we respected your property. It was yours. Yeah. We were so unified that we would help each other. Today, I never have seen anybody come over to my house and say, could I get a cup of salt? Mm-hmm. When we didn't have salt, we said, go down to Miss Mary and tell her to send me a half a cup of salt and some pepper too. It was no problem for us to do that. So you have to show respect. You have to show unity among yourselves. Don't go out there trying to kill a black on black crime. You just get in there and trust in your fellow man. You got to love one another. You can't just go around and boy, will you please pull them pants up above your behind? If you came to my job and I'm a black man, own a company, and your pants is below your hips, you won't get a job from me. I'm just sorry. That's something that you telling me something you have to do. So I say to the children, Children respect.
Right.
Children get unity. Children be able to trust in God. Let God be your leader.
Yeah.
Where I live, I've had a lot of trouble with the young children. They grew up with my children, but I had my home broken in 3 times. The 3rd time, I stayed off the job. I called my job and told them that I was sick. I lied. And I drove my Cadillac, sir, down 3 or 4 blocks and walked back to the house at 5:30 in the morning to try to catch him. And I did. I was at home. This winter, they broke in 3 times. The 3rd time, I have a seat here, where you could eat in the kitchen. And I was stooping down, waiting. So I heard something crack. And I had my 45. And I said to myself, I'm gonna let you come in and see who you are. They came in, 2 of them came in. One cut himself on that glass on the window. And that's when I raised up. I said, come on in, sir. They was about my children age, I guess. Come on in here. I said, if you don't answer one question, I'm gonna kill both of y'all. Tell me who was the fastest man that could outrun a horse in a half a block. And if you don't tell me, I'm gonna shoot both of y'all. But I ain't gonna shoot you in here. I want you to come and go through this garage here and get out here in the ground. And down the road there was a beer joint, and that's where all his friends was watching. And when I told him, you better tell me, both of y'all, who was this fast? Do you know what they told me? Jesse. I said, well, all right, show me Jesse. And by George, they started running, and I threw that 45 right here, bam, 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 right between their legs, and Lord, it be, you talking about me. Now, I had to do that in my neighborhood. I had to tell those, I don't have no horses, dogs, cats. I don't want them at my yard. And I had to tell them, don't bring them over here. Because I got a right hand, they knew I said I was preaching. And I got a left hand. That's the way I had to talk to them. My left hand is for the devil. My right hand is for God. The devil is you all. And I'm going to shoot every time I see out of it. But I did that. And so 3 days ago, the man that had all the horses and chickens in his tank came, and I was raking up all them leaves out of my lawnmower. I got an acre and a half. And he said, how you take that bitch? He never spoke to me in I don't know a week. And I stopped and I said, I'm fine. And he said, I'm sorry that I caused you all the trouble that I caused. I said, God bless you, and I'm sorry that I'm glad that you didn't come in here, because I said I got a 30-06 that I called. That 30-06 was deer rifle. That's the way I talk to him. But it's to kill niggas, it wasn't. I wanted to scare them, you know what I'm saying? I wanted to talk off from the preacher's way into the devil's way. And do you not know, I'm so glad that he said that and everything. And now I live in my house kind of peaceful. Because he said that, and I know all his buddies knows it, that he said that.
Well, I work a lot. I work a lot with the kids, and my passion is children. You have to handle them with a firm but yet a gentle touch. I would tell them, first of all, put God first. Secondly, learn your history. Know who you are, know where you came from. Without any history, there's no future. Once you learn your history and you learn how your parents had to strive and sit on the back of the buses that they talked about, pick cotton, be called the N-word, then you will have something to look forward to. You'll know where you're going. You'll know what you've had to overcome. Shanice was doing a book report just day before yesterday, and they asked her about World War II. And she was like, Grandma, were the blacks glad to fight in World War II? I say, look up the Tuskegee Airmen. She looked up the Tuskegee Airmen and she got mad because she found out that 250 Negro soldiers had been killed or tested with syphilis. They told all, she said, Granny, they told all about their honors. They told all about their accolades, but no one tells about those that died. The parts of the history books that the pastors talked about, they're being left out now. They're taking all of our heritage, they're taking all of our history. As far as the technology, turn it off. There are no cell phones, there are no televisions. There's nothing in my house in the evenings between Monday and Friday. Friday evenings, you get to watch TV, you get to play your games from Friday to Sunday. Sunday evening, you're back in the school mode. When you're going to school early in the morning and you're getting out at 4 and 5 o'clock in the evening, by the time you eat your dinner, do your homework, take your bath, it's time to bed. If you sit up there and let your children play these games and these gadgets and watch everything on TV, therefore you're not doing what you're supposed to do as a parent. We blame them, we blame you guys for wearing your pants down, we blame you for being disrespectful, we blame you for everything. But one thing you have to teach your children, everybody's not gonna like what you do. Everybody's not gonna be your friend, but you have to draw the line somewhere, and you have to be your own self-person. And that's where we as adults are lives in our children. Teach them, those that are willing to be taught.